The In-Laws, Season 2, Part 1. A story by E.B.'s Heart. 150 years later, Emmanuel had gathered enough wealth and connections. He had also won and sacrificed a lot of souls for Fora. Being a founder of the most popular church in the country made it easier for him to achieve this. He used his rich and flamboyant lifestyle to convince rich-seeking men and women that God had blessed him more than them, because he was a true servant of God. This had been going on for years, and so many desperate wealth seekers have sold their souls to Fora. Whenever Emmanuel needs sacrifice, he will simply take a handful of his congregation, either by accident or sickness. He even established many branches across the country. On the surface, gullible people believed they were worshipping God, but deep down, so many rich men and women, politicians, top businessmen and large school owners were coming to worship Fora. Underneath every branch of his church is Fora's shrine. And Emmanuel, the founder of the church, drinks human blood. Every year, Emmanuel organizes a charity event where he will invite the lowest of the low to his church to come and dine with him. This particular day is also an important day in his cult, because he takes the number of persons he needs for his sacrifice. It was during one of such occasions that she came in, dazzling in a white gown. Her aura could be felt by everyone around. "Who is that lady?" Emmanuel asked the shape-shifting demon beside him. In Emmanuel's church, he made them believe he was married with kids, but in reality, the woman that always sits beside him is not even a human being, but a shape-shifting demon. The demon can take the shape, voice, and appearance of anyone it wished to. "I will find out, Juma," the demon responded and left. She was talking with a church member, smiling, but Emmanuel was watching her with discomfort. "Why do I feel uncomfortable looking at this woman? I need to know who she is now," he commanded. After the feast with the poor among his congregation, it was all over the news how humble and generous he is. Everyone prayed to the God of Emmanuel, a rich God. The God blesses his believers with riches. By the time they could ask questions about who she had left. The next Sunday, she was at the front seat of the church, dancing and clapping like everyone. At the end of the church service, a lady usher approached her. "Welcome to Children of God's Church. We can see you are a new member. Our Papa will like to speak with you," the usher said, smiling. The lady laughed and said, "Speak with me? Is that how he speaks with everyone that joins the church? I don't want to speak to him," the lady said and left. Emmanuel became very upset at her response. "Follow her and find out where she stays," Emmanuel commanded his men. They followed her. She walked out of the gate and kept walking. She walked all through to a big gate and entered. The men who had been following her parked at a distance to see where she entered. But we're surprised to see what was written in front of the gate. "The city cemetery." They both fell on each other while running. "She is living in a cemetery. I doubt if she is a human being," they informed Emmanuel. Emmanuel laughed and said, "So a poor ghost wants to try me. The most popular demon in hell. If she ever show her face here again, I will teach her a lesson." The next Sunday, she was at the front seat again, smiling and dancing like the other congregants. She even gave a testimony. When the service ended, she joined the queue of congregants waiting for Emmanuel to lay hands on them. When it got to her turn, she leaned closer to Emmanuel and whispered, "I will be your nightmare from now, get ready." Emmanuel froze on his seat. She then walked out through the door and disappeared. The In-Laws Season 2, Part 2. A story by E.B.'s Heart. "Imagine a poor ghost trying to show face where I am," Emmanuel shouted angrily, "even threatening me. I will show this little ghost what I can do. I will trap her in a place that she will be stuck for eternity. I won't go after her, because that is what she wants. Let her come here and I will send my minions after her." Emmanuel was still vibrating with anger when Juma, her personal demon, tapped him. "I don't think you should look at her as little, my lord," Juma said, bowing her head. "I feel a strange discomfort whenever she enters the church." "Shut up. Juma, what do you know, and who do you think you are to advise me? I am your lord, and you would have remained in hell if I did not bring you here to live among humans. I know how human beings behave, so I will tell you more about her." Emmanuel shouted angrily and dismissed everyone. Deep down Emmanuel was scared, because he felt the same discomfort. It was as he is dealing with someone much more powerful. He dismissed the thought immediately and decided to wait. There is this particular service Emmanuel holds for his congregation every 3 months. In this special service, he steals their destinies and lucks. He then transfers this stolen virtues to his dedicated cult members, such that his church members do not progress, making them more vulnerable and addicted to his ministry. He will keep telling them to pray and have faith, until they become as rich and successful as he is. Whenever this service was going on, Emmanuel will hypnotize his congregation. They will think they were in the spirit, then Emmanuel's minions will be hovering over their head, while stealing their destinies and luck. So this particular Sunday, which was a special service Sunday, as his congregation called it, Emmanuel started speaking in his demonic language, and everyone started drifting away into the oblivion. Then his minions were about to steal destinies. When she walked into the church, the entire atmosphere changed. Emmanuel, who had already changed into who he actually is, a demon, was mad with anger. "What are you doing here? And who are you? Leave now before I destroy you forever." She laughed so hard, and said, "My mission is to send you and your minions back to where you belong. You cannot be tormenting humans as you wish." Emmanuel tried to go close to her, but he found out that he could not. That was when he became really scared. "What do you want from me?" Emmanuel shouted in anger. "I have already told you what I want. Return to hell and remain there for all eternity." "No, never, I will never return. I took over this body, which my master handed over to me. I have spent centuries living among humans. And you think you can send me back? I will crush you," Emmanuel screamed and rushed to where she was standing. A very strong force pushed him and hit him hard on the wall of his church. Emmanuel fell to the ground. In that instant, his congregation woke up and saw him in form of demon. By then she had disappeared. They all scampered for safety. Emmanuel ran away from his church to avoid being recognized. "I will crush her. I will destroy her. I will." He stopped in that instant and told everyone to leave him. He knelt in front of Fora's statue and invoked him. Fora appeared before him. "Who is she and why are you allowing her to expose me?" Emmanuel asked, sounding defeated. "I gave you all you need to succeed and exploit humankind, and I do not expect failure of any kind from you. But if you fail, I will not destroy you, but I will punish you for all eternity." Fora roared. "But you have not still told me who she is, and how I can defeat her." Emmanuel said eagerly, "She is a pure spotless soul you killed in one of bloodthirsty rituals. You lack discernment, you are so foolish and power-drunk. No matter who you are, or the power you think you possess, you cannot dare the Almighty, who is also our Maker. In this case you touched his precious child, the one who is so pure that her death shook the whole heaven. Her only request was to destroy you and liberate her people. Who am I to get in the way? I cannot try that. I can only give you a clue on how to defeat her. If you can find out her name and how she died in your hands, then you can defeat. And if you can be able to get something that belonged to her, take whatever she had to the burial ground. Invoke her by calling her name. Then bury it. She might become powerless. But if you fail, she will come at you with full force." Emmanuel started crying, "I don't want to return to hell. Please give me a clue on the year she died. How can I remember her?" Emmanuel said hopelessly. Fora turned and said, "She died 100 years ago. Her mission is to rid the human race of your kind. Time is running out, do not fail." Fora said and vanished. Emmanuel called his men that instant and said, "Follow her into the cemetery, find out where or the grave she enters." The In-Laws, Season 2, Part 3. A story by Iby's Heart. "Are you still seeing her?" one of Emmanuel's men was asking the other. "Yes, she is sitting in a certain grave." "Let me take a closer look," another one said. She sat on the grave and disappeared after a while. The men ran away with fear. She sat on a particular grave for some minutes and vanished. Then we went closer and the name there was, Madame Marion Uma. The men informed Emmanuel immediately. They stepped into the shrine. How can I find an individual named Uma from 100 years ago? Emmanuel was pacing about with worry. Everybody get out! He shouted and knelt down in front of Fora's statue, invoking Fora again. Fora appeared, but was very angry. Why are you calling on me again? I have given you all the clues you need to find her. Fora said angrily. I have checked the clues you gave to me, but nothing came out of it. Please Fora, I know you don't want your humble servant to fail. Help me, after all, everything I do is for your glory. Emmanuel said with a bowed head. Her name is Fina Uma. She was a pure virgin girl whom you set on fire together with her family. They were also the members of your church. Can you remember her now? And do you think you can still find what belonged to her? Fora laughed mockingly and disappeared. Emmanuel called his church's record keeper. He registers every family that joins his church, according to him, so that picking them for sacrifice would be easier. Look for this name on our family records, and get me all you can about them. I want to bless them. He said, smiling hopefully. Emmanuel started a rumor about what happened at their special service. He made his congregation to believe that an evil spirit tried to attack him, and he destroyed it with his powers. Soon this was the only thing they were talking about in his church. So assuming our Papa was not a real man of God, the devil would have one? Some women were discussing beside the church. The devil is indeed a liar, thank God for the God of Emmanuel, another woman said with her hands in the air. Fina came to Emmanuel's church the next Sunday, and sat in the front seat as usual. Her presence now affects Emmanuel and his minions. Emmanuel tried all his best to stand up, but could not. Everyone in the church were surprised. After a while, they lied that they were under attack again by the same evil spirit. His men later carried Emmanuel away. When the service was over, a middle-aged rich politician approached Fina. Leave our master alone, or else when you die this time, your spirit won't even see where it will go to, he threatened. Fina laughed and said, look at where your greed and quest for money had led you. Defending a man whom you know so well is a demon. The man left immediately, because other church members turned to look at them. By then Emmanuel had commanded some of his dedicated cult members to follow Fina. When you get there, invoke Fora to be with you, call her by her name. Her name is Fina Uma, direct your sacred staff towards her and speak in our tongue. She will return to where she came from. He instructed them. They followed her to the cemetery, invoked Fora, called her by her name and started speaking in demonic tongues. Fina stood at a place watching them. When they were through, she spiritually ran between them and touched all of them in the head. They all ran back home and started confessing their sins, and how many people they had killed. After that, Fina appeared to them one after the other and said, repent in your ways, accept God, or die. They were all afraid to die, except one. While the rest went to other believing churches for cleansing and baptism. He went back to Emmanuel to report what had happened. But he died the next day. I am becoming weaker by the day. She have started taking my disciples. What am I going to do? A desperate Emmanuel was asking his minions. Strike her, I wonder what you are waiting for. One of them suggested. Since finding something that belongs to her may not be possible, why not face her with your powers, another one said. Plead with Fora to assist you in striking her, Juma his personal assistant advised. No, I will handle it first, before calling on Fora, Emmanuel replied arrogantly. Emmanuel waited for another day that Fina will show her face. He followed her into the cemetery. Once Fina saw that he was already inside the cemetery, she disappeared and appeared outside the cemetery. The cemetery instantly turned into a big prison. This is where you will remain, until we are ready to destroy you completely. Emmanuel looked around in fear, and asked, what is this place? Fina laughed and said, this was never a cemetery, it is a prison that I prepared for you. I know you will not resist the urge to follow me one day, so I kept waiting patiently for this day. You have grown too powerful, so sending you to where you belong may not be as easy as I thought. So you will remain here until I set all your captives free, then I will come for you. I will make this place as secured as possible, so that you cannot escape. Fina said and vanished. Emmanuel fell on his knees crying. He tried calling on Fora, but got no response. Even Fora cannot hear me from here, he said hopelessly.